Live from New York, it's Ask This Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask an Engineer. It's me, Lady Ada, the engineer, with me, Mr. Lady Ada, on camera control, and a lot of the content that you're going to see. We got an
Oh,
exciting show for you tonight, full
man.
packed hour of new products, news, guides, videos. It's not out yet, and more, including a code.
Yeah,
Discount code. Let's
try to
kick it.
squeeze all this in 1 hour. The code is VCNL. That is an L, by the way. It's all lowercase.
Mm.
VCNL. That gets you 10% off in the store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. It's, because of this product, but it's VCNL. Use it or lose it. We'll talk about some of our live shows, including Show and Tell. Thanks, Melissa, for hosting. Like about Desk of Ladyada, including the Great Search. We got a JP's product pick of the week guide, a little bit of a reminder. JP broadcasts this every week on JP's workshop as well. Some advanced manufacturing made in New York City. 3D printing, we got a Halloween roundup and more, and a speed up. We got Ion MPI, it's brought to you by DigiKey. We've got some top secret. We got some new products. We can answer your questions. We do that on Discord, adafruit.it/discord, where we answer questions throughout the show and at the end of the show. And then you can hang out 24/7. It's a place where you can meet others that are building things and sharing things. So come on by. All that and more on, yep, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Yay.
Okay, so code is VCNL. You get free stuff. Lady,
Yes.
what do they get when they start putting stuff in their cart?
When you order from Adafruit.com, we have freebies, $99 or more. This beautiful gold-plated PCB coaster. If you have more than one, it's great because now you have a set and they come with little rubber bumpers, and I use mine every day. 149 or more orders get a KB2040. It's a Pro Micro pinout compatible microcontroller board featuring the RP2040 chip. It's got 8 megabytes of flash, USB-C, STEM-QT port for plug-and-play sensors, buttons, and NeoPixel, and more. It's a great little board for starting your microcontroller journey. Orders $200 and more, you'll get free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States. It's trackable, it's unionized, it's insured, it's pretty sweet. So that's from
And we got
us.
better rates now, too.
Yes, which makes it even easier for us to offer free shipping. And then orders $299 and more, we're doing a special promo with DigiKey and NXP for our new Metro M7, blazingly fast, 500 megahertz processor with a Cortex M7. That's where the M7 comes from. In Metro format, which makes it easy to use with all of your Arduino compatible shields. Also has micro SD built in, STEM-QT port, SWD debug for people who want to do debug state, USB-C, DC power, and on-off switch. So a very, very powerful, I think the most powerful Metro-shaped microcontroller board by
Okay.
far.
All right, we do a bunch of live shows. Thanks, Melissa, who just did the show and tell. So every single Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the longest running show and tell. Stop on by. We're gonna watch a show and tell right after this because we're finishing up the show. It's been some epic weeks here trying to do some hardware as a chip shortage kind of resided, or what is it? Rescinded? Resided? What's the word? Is there a word?
Receded.
Yeah, receded.
Yeah.
Receded. Yeah, this is what happens when you've been through some shit. You start combining words or using the wrong words. We're gonna watch the show and tell right after this tonight. On Sundays we do From the Desk of Ladyada. It's two parts. What was the first part this week?
This part we showed off, we got our final Qualia S3 boards in the shop last week for people who remember they watched the video. So I wanted to show off that, yes, we have CircuitPython working. Jepler is on a much deserved holiday trip. But before he left, he did a PR and they merged in support for these dot clock displays into CircuitPython, and there's also support in Arduino. So there's going to be much, much more cool weirdo displays. And also, as of last week, the Pi 5 was released. I don't think it was out last week because I think it was like
Um,
I think it's
it's a
Thursday
bit of a
morning.
blur. Yeah, I think maybe it was after our show. We'll talk about some Raspberry Pi
We'll
stuff.
talk about that this week.
Yeah.
So we also talked about the Raspberry Pi 5 pre-release announcement and some of the things to watch out for and to enjoy.
So we had the Great Search. This is where Lady Ada hopes to find all the parts that you need on digikey.com. What was the search this week?
So one of the new things on the Raspberry Pi 5, which we'll chat about later in more detail, is there's an FPC connector for PCIe. And now is like a good time for me to be like, what is PCIe exactly? And is it the same as M2? And like, why are they compatible? Or they one go to the other? And how many lanes? And what are lanes even? So we do a little bit of a dive into PCIe as a mechanical and electrical standard. And we go on the hunt for a PCIe SMT connector that you could use if you wanted to convert the Raspberry Pi PCIe flex cable slot into something you can actually plug a PCIe card into.
Yeah. Oh, there was a question. I'll answer this real time. So there's a little graphic that's behind us when we do some like web stuff here.
Oh yeah, look at the green.
Yeah. So this is just one graphic, and it's an animation that I did, and then I tweaked it, and I think I started off with like a little animation, then I kept making it repeat more, and then I'm just using a color tweak. So it's the same animation. It's just green for when it's Disco Ladyada mode, and then of course it's red when we're talking about the great
That's
search
a
of
very cute
HQ.
animation you made.
Yeah, it's fun. Graphics. Um,
Is graphics your passion?
Graphics is my passion. JP's product pick of the week. Let's show this week's highlight. We do a product pick of the week every week. This is, I think, one of the only places where you can watch a live stream on a product page and the discounts automatically applied on checkout. So this is the latest.
The Feather M4 Express. One of my favorites, one of the original high power, high octane, heavy duty feather boards. This one uses the ATSAM D51. It is a powerhouse of a chip. You can run Arduino on it really well. You can run CircuitPython on it incredibly well, especially with floating point math. It has this lovely little prototyping area. You can use this little proto area here. There are a set of ground and 3-volt pins at the edges, and then you have this little grid here of pins that you can use. I've just added a potentiometer right there. I'm using my little knob to adjust some brightness values there. I can hit the different buttons here to change some colors. I can even adjust some of these color values with my joystick here. We're so excited this one is back in stock. Like I said, it's been a while. The return of the Feather M4 Express.
Oh, okie dokie. And don't forget Thursday is JP's workshop. And then this Friday, Scott's going to be doing deep dive. And then next week it'll be Scott or Tim, maybe. All this month, it is electronic Halloween season.
Spooky season. Spooky circuit season.
Yeah, it's Halloween all the time. One of the things that we do are these gift guides. So if you go to adafruit.com and you check out gift guides, you can see some of the things that we have. And it's been really hard to get a lot of Halloween related stuff in stock. I think Monster Mask.
Monster Mask is
It's
in
back.
stock, and the Halloween M4s are in stock. I don't have a
Yeah.
lot, but I did put some in stock.
Yeah.
And the Feather M4s, which are used in a lot of prop projects that we did.
Yeah. So, I'll tell you a spooky story.
It's spooky.
So, I'll just blend the different segments of our show together. So I've been talking to our team because we're starting to get momentum crawling out of like between COVID and then just like how everything kind of melted down in the world, still kind of melted down. Friday we had like a flood in New York. You saw the
I
news?
know.
Saw the news? That's here.
That was Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's here, and so, everyone's kind of been through a thing, but we're crawling out of it. Adafruit's okay. People ask once in a while, it's like, I see a lot of electronic companies or like startups or, other companies, and they're just like not making it. We're making it. Thank you, everybody, for buying stuff.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, because just to get ahead of stuff. So we announced earlier in the year, we're like, we think we can get AdaBox back going. We were thinking that people were going to just like cancel their subscription because during the chip shortage, we're like, there's no way we can get 4,000 or something. Turns out we have thousands of signups for when anyone leaves, and no one's leaving AdaBox. So we get emails like once in a while. Someone's like, hey, like, are you ever going to ship AdaBox? And we have updates. We have, I think, for the super fans, there's folks who watch our show. But our plan right now, just for the folks that are kind of like knee deep in the community and watch all of our shows, the plan is we're obviously even now not able to get out 4,000 at once, but we're going to start to get an AdaBox out, towards the end of the year, and just keep shipping all of them until we're caught up to the latest AdaBox, and then next year get more momentum. because I'm seeing companies blaming, they're like, oh, like open source cloners out in China is why we're not shipping stuff, or this, that, and the other thing. And the reality is you just have to like, bob and weave. So like I said, I'm gonna blend these together a little bit. We have this graphic. So Lemore's already passed 420 redesigns, but we started this graphics. I wanted to show it. So we're like, yay,
Well, that's
psychedelic,
good.
420, man. Yeah. So uh we got through the worst. What's the phrase? If you're going through hell, just keep going. So we got through the worst, and we're gonna be able to ship an AdaBox. But one of the things that's gonna be a little hard is like folks are going to be like, I have AdaBox, but I haven't got mine yet. It's like, yeah, we're going to restart this machine that's been off for 2 years. Um, and we'll probably have to do it at batches at a time. We'll have to contact some customers. We'll do this stuff. So, anyways, we'll give you some real time progress. One of the things that we might do is take a break from some of the other things. Like maybe we won't have like 5 new products in the store this week in the new product section, but it's like, hey, like we're wrapping up the rest of AdaBox, and we think we'll be able to do this. So I don't know. I'll ask the community's help with this because, the online world is a little terrible at times. Like damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's never fast enough, it's never good enough. Um, but it's really hard to do this. It's been a rough couple of years. Anyways, that's our plan. But I want to give everyone an update and show this graphic. The other thing, and we adapt fast, is during all this time, we're like, well, let's have the best ways to do things with your hardware. Let's continue to make no code or low code solutions for stuff. Let's make the best IoT experience. Let's make it so easy that people tell us you're making it too easy. So those are things, what sometimes you can't get all the parts you need, but when you can, or you can build software around the stuff, and then when the parts come in, you're set. So we're calling this Whippersnapper Wednesday. Brandon, Lauren, and team are doing a really good job on this, and we have some updates. Ladyada, you could probably talk about a couple of these, but the big ones is we have auto configuration, and then new UR components, and then
emojis. Those are so cute. Bus.
oh yeah,
UR bus.
yeah. Today I read that pretty soon in Gmail you'll just be able to reply to an email with an emoji, like a message. That's probably the best and worst thing I heard today. So there's so much going on.
Okay, look at how many types has added so many sensors.
So you can see like kind of I like y'all. I hope that you can see that like we really grinded through the last couple of years. We have a lot of good stuff going on. We had a good September. Like we're really crawling out of the muck of waiting for hardware and just like kind of unending everything. We just eat glass. We wake up and eat glass. But Whippersnapper is kind of like one of the jewels that popped out of this. Like all this pressure happens, and it's like bing, a diamond. So
that's what how diamonds are made, pink.
That's what they sound like.
Deep in the center of a star.
Yeah. Bink. So you've been kind of like help pushing this along.
Yeah.
So what are the big highlights that you're excited about with this Whippersnapper?
Okay, so
you can read the blog post, but
yeah, I read in detail, but basically the idea behind auto configuration is if you have a board like a Funhouse or like a Pi Portland, it has built-in sensors and displays. When you connect to Whippersnapper to allow to do even more stuff, all the built-in displays like on the Funhouse, there's or whatever, there's an accelerometer maybe, or there's a humidity sensor, temperature sensor, light sensor. Whippersnapper should be like, hey, I already know what sensors are built into this board. I'm going to pre-populate it for you. And also, if you have a setup that you've made, you should be able to export and save your setup. So, for example, a teacher might be like, okay, all the students are going to make a temperature humidity sensor with a QT Py board and an HT20. They would do it once, export the configuration, and then all the students wouldn't have to like go through and copy and like click all the buttons. You'd import this file that would be in an open like JSON or actually I don't know if it's JSON. I say JSON, but I mean like YAML, whatever TOML format to be pre-configuration. The second thing, if you can scroll up just a little bit, is UART. So we've supported analog inputs, PWM outputs, digital ins, digital outs, NeoPixels, and now we're getting to a little bit more, and displays. Now we're getting into more esoteric stuff like UART components, especially used a lot in air quality sensors. A lot of people want to do air quality projects. So, PMS, the family of PMS sensors will now be supported with UART. And so another nice thing about this is if you have one of those like IKEA sensors that's not internet connected, you can now reuse the sensor part and plug in, you know, your ESP8266 and have it auto configure and connect to Whippersnapper.
So check it out. Brent has a blog post, but this is
And
like
tons of sensors.
yeah, but this is like a good example. Like every time something's happened in the last few years, we're like, okay, well, we'll get chips to talk eventually. Let's make the best IoT experience so people have this. Oh, sensors, those are completely out of stock when COVID started. Now, like you can get air quality sensors and more. So it's like we're gonna keep, you know, over under throwing. But check it out. This is our Whipper Wednesday. We try to do this at least each month, and check out the easiest way to get something connected online and log in and chat and more.
It's free, guys.
Yeah.
It's free.
Python hardware time. So this week's Python on hardware, a little special, because well, I'll go through a couple things and then I'm going to bounce over to probably what a lot of folks who like Python on hardware want to hear about. I'm going to ask Ladyada. I'm going to surprise her with some questions.
What?
Yeah. So of course, Py5. We'll get to that in a second. But if you're interested in Python, there's a developer survey result. You can start to see like what are people really doing with Python across the world. What things should you consider? How are they using it? What's interesting is more and more people are using it for embedded development that was never on there.
It's interesting. It's going up. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
a big number, but it's going up.
Yeah.
Not-
Yeah, and the people that are using it are using a lot. That's the other thing, of
Yeah.
course. You know, half is for work. There's 28% that's personal use. A lot of it use it on Linux. So it just gives you like here's the landscape of Python, especially if you're thinking like, oh, what are people using it for? So it's useful. We put in a newsletter. It's Open Hardware Month. We'll talk about that in a bit. And you can catch up on some of the open hardware news. We have a bunch of certifications. Again, I'll talk about that once we get to the open hardware section of our show. Oktoberfest is going, and
We are
there's
participating.
yeah, there's a bunch of opportunities. You can do just about anything around the CircuitPython world. So check it out in the newsletter and go to Adafruit Daily and see the latest, or you can just search for Hacktober. And then there's Libre PCB. This is another free tool. More free tools, the better.
Yeah, interesting. I'm like I'm into it. You know, like I will admit I currently do not use other tools. I'm still using Eagle. I'm still kind of slowly playing with
Yeah,
TrackCAD.
we're eventually going to get to
I'm definitely gonna, you know, eventually get to it. But you know, I'd love to see more tools. Like there can never be too many options for people that are not OrCAD or Altium.
Yeah. Oh, and this is great. The question is actually one of the things I was going to ask. This is good. It's about the Pi 5. And of course, go check out all the projects. There's a lot going on, but what I wanted to do, because a lot of I'll just kind of break it down. Good news, bad news. It's cool that there's a new Raspberry Pi out. I think the challenge is people need to know, because before it was like, oh, it's going to be an educational computer. Now, obviously, it's kind of like they're adding all these things and it's a lot faster. And yes, it can be used for education, but there's a lot more. And then there's our world, which is like, can you do Python stuff on it? So the question that just popped up in the chat was the same thing I was going to ask you is,
wow, coincidence.
So yeah, so in context of one, the Python and hardware newsletter, but just generally speaking, what are the elements of the Pi 5 that, you know, you're interested in or excited about? And then what does this mean for people who do Python on hardware? Like we have Blinka, maybe we can talk about that a little bit, but what do you think is like Ladyada engineer is interesting about the Pi 5?
There's a couple interesting things. First off, I will say I'm not a beta user, so I do not have a Pi 5 and I'm basing this only on like the photos and information that's out there. I also have not watched, I know there's like hour-long interviews. I haven't had time to listen to this either. But from just reading the specs and looking at the photo, the stuff that is most interesting to me is we now have 4-lane MIPI and CSI, so big displays, big cameras, you know, very fast data transfer. Secondarily, the PCIe slot, I think, is also very neat. I think people who are using the CM4 modules were like, hey, you know, there's PCIe. Connecting cellular modules is now going to be very easy. Before you kind of go through USB and like it's not as easy and fast, and maybe you can't take advantage of. There's a lot of stuff for the laptop market that would be able to plug into an M2 format and use the PCIe bus. And so I think that there's definitely this kind of collision of like the Raspberry Pi 5 and a laptop computation capability. But they did keep the GPIO, which I think is great. And I think the thing that's going to be very interesting is the RP1. And I think that's a little bit of like a silent strike. I don't know what the word is, but it's like, what is this chip? Oh, it's a Southbridge. Okay. But knowing what they did with the RP2040 and knowing that obviously they must have taken everything they learned with the RP2040 and integrated it into the Southbridge chip, I think that it's going to it they're very smart and they know the kinds of projects people want to do with Raspberry Pi. They know the constraints that they've had in the past because GPIO on single board computers is on the Raspberry Pi, it's fairly fast, but in general, it's very slow and it's very clunky. It'll be very neat to see. Did they add analog inputs? Did they add PWM outputs? Maybe pulse inputs? Maybe they have neopixels on the PIO. You can control like multiple neopixels through the GPIO. Having a really tightly coupled RP2040 for that the PIO speed, motor control, neopixels, PWMs, analog inputs, PWM outputs, all that good stuff with the horsepower of the Pi 5 main processor and RAM. I think it could be, it's a really big step up. And it reminds me a little bit of the interesting stuff that the BeagleBone Black did, where like,
Yeah.
BeagleBone had this built.
They filled a void because they were, they're part of TI, so they were already like, let's make something that's not just like a Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
thing. Let's like kind of go to the next level.
Yeah, this built-in PRU, and I think with that there was like this Ethernet communications. But I think the Raspberry Pi folks, they know this stuff. Like they have now full control. And it's funny. It's like you can tell that the silicon shortage, they were like, you know what? No, we're just gonna make our own chip. Like we are tired of negotiating and fighting and to get the millions of quantities that we need at the price we have to hit. And I think I don't know this, I'm just guessing, right? So like I'm not speaking on behalf of Raspberry Pi, but if I were them, having gone through the last few years, I would be like infuriated that
We're all saying never again, but like never again.
You're so dependent on
Yeah.
a third party vendor because you're like, okay, I've designed in your chip, and they're making millions and millions and millions of Raspberry Pis a year, and it's like if
Can't get
they're
this.
designed in, and then now they feel like they're not, I don't want to say held hostage, but they're reliant on another company. I think that one thing that, from what I know about Raspberry Pi folks, is they really like to chart their own path and they don't like to be reliant. So I think this was it's going to be very interesting. Like they're going to break the mold of what a single board computer can do with hardware interfacing.
Okay.
And that's like a rant, but like,
no, this is, here's the
sometimes
thing.
you rant,
So,
sometimes I rant.
yeah, and so I'm about to say something. This is not a ding on all the coverage out there. There's a lot of good coverage, but there's also a lot of coverage which is just like, here's a Raspberry Pi 5, and they just read off a spec sheet. Like that's not kind of our style. So like,
yeah, like the processing speed to me, I'm like, okay, cool. It's fast.
yeah,
That's not interesting.
That's why I thought it'd be good for like Ladyada to like talk about like, and this is a good question, like what's interesting to you, and then as we get these, whether it be the end of October, however these are gonna get shipped out to the resellers, we'll have this type of in-depth stuff because what we don't want to do is just like, quick, get a video up so we can show that we have specs on it. Like I feel like the community that's out there that really does electronics, they can always read the spec sheet, but I think there's other pieces of this that you're like, here's how you can actually use it, and here's the things and some context.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you play a video game, like like you play a video game and you're like, there's this like weird tool that you pick up and you're like, I don't, what is this? But like somehow you're like, I know I'm going to need this for the boss battle, right? It's always like the glass sword, and you're like, wow, this is so weird. I know that this is going to be something that I use, like it's the most powerful tool in the entire game if I just like learn the magic spell to unlock it. And I think that's where the RP1 is for me.
Okay. So stay tuned to the newsletter because we're going to be putting a lot of this stuff in, especially as the Pi ships. It's part of Adafruit Daily. It shows up at your mailbox every single week. Adafruitdaily.com. Let's talk about some open source hardware. So as I mentioned before, with this cool graphic, we're past 420 redesigns. That means
I want that dress.
Yeah, that means 420 products didn't have an available chip, so we had to redesign it, and now we're locked in to being able to make it or be flexible or like whatever. So this can't happen again. It's Open Hardware Month. We're up to 697.
Yes.
We're gonna cross 700. We'll be the first company that's gotten to 700 open hardware designs published. We were the first to get to 500, first to get 600. We're going to be the first to get to
We
700.
submitted over 700.
Yeah.
They just have to approve that.
And it's not a competition or anything. However, it's a competition for ourselves. Like when some entities are saying we're not doing open source anymore because there's no reason to do it. We're showing that this is a signal to the community. Like not only is there a good reason to do it, it's good for marketing. It's good for the world. It's good for the customers. It's good for the community. But it's good to be a good. Use too many words. Good here.
Good.
Yeah,
It's good.
it's possible to be a good cause and a good business, and we could say it, or we could do it. I'm gonna do a little bit both today. So, anyways,
So watch that number. It's
watch that number.
gonna hit.
We're gonna hit 700 soon.
Yeah.
And
don't hassle them though. They're getting to it.
Sorry.
I mean, we hassle them, but you should.
Yeah,
But viewers shouldn't hassle.
Yeah, and we're really happy about it. So, anyways, we have guides, tons and tons of guides, and that's part of our charter as well, which is let's publish and share and teach the world.
Yes.
Ad free.
This week we've got 2 guides from Liz Clark. So this actually was she wrote this a week ago, but it took me a while to review. It's a massive guide. Everyone who sees the RGB matrix portal, like the matrices in the matrix portal, are like, hey, we want a scoreboard for like sports ball. And we actually tried to do this with the original Matrix Portal M4 a couple of years ago, but it turns out that the ESPN feed, which is like the feed you want to use, is so big it will not fit in the RAM of a SAMD 51. But now that we have the S3 Matrix Portal, we got plenty of PS RAM in there. I think like whatever 2 megabytes or more. We can easily fit the entire ESPN feed, and so no matter what sports ball, sports puck game you want to show off, you can set up a scoreboard. This is actually using 64 by 32. So yeah, 64 by 32 matrices to make a 128 by 64 like big screen. I think Liz is gonna get some photos if she hasn't yet of her on her wall. And
yeah, I have a quick little video.
Great.
Yeah, let's just play real fast.
Okay.
You can build a large RGB LED matrix display to keep track of your favorite sports teams. A Matrix Portal S3 running CircuitPython fetches data from the ESPN API. 4 64 by 32 matrices are tiled together to form a 128 by 64 pixel display that is approximately 20 inches wide by 10.5 inches high. You'll run a Python script to gather and prep the team logos for the project. The script downloads the logos, resizes them, and applies gamma correction so that they'll look crisp and bright on the matrices. When the Matrix Portal S3 boots up, you'll see all 5 of your team logos displayed. If a game is scheduled for your team, the date and time are shown alongside your team and the opposing team's logos. During gameplay, the current score and game details are shown. This updates as new data is available from the API. When a game finishes, the final score is shown. See how you can build your own scoreboard by checking out the Learn Guide at learn.adafruit.com. Go Pats!
And you have some other guides too.
Yes, and speaking of, because we have the S3 Matrix Portal, Trevor also did a guide. Trevor is our iOS dev, and he really wanted to have a display that showed the New York Times latest breaking news headlines. New York Times also has a feed that we can now fit into the Matrix Portal S3. So some great projects for, if you have one of the new Matrix Portal S3s, it's less expensive than the original M4. It's in stock. It's easy to use, and you can do many more projects with it.
Okay. Check out learn.adafruit.com. You'll see lots more. And also, if you want to publish a guide, you can use our playground section now. That is right. Oops, I just what do I do here?
You go there.
Yeah.
And then,
anyways, you go to playground. We're calling these playgrounds. So these are all guides that people want access to our editor tool. And here you go.
It's like, you get great stuff from Adafruit folks. And we love making detailed guides that are like for more products that really show off the capabilities. But sometimes we do little projects that are like, hey, they're not
Yeah, it's
Maybe
not a
not.
product guide or anything. Yeah, it's whatever you
For
want.
fun. It's not a full guide. Maybe you don't want to go into like the huge editing process that we do.
Yeah.
Some Adafruit folks and people from the community, you can make your own notes, and they're not public. These are the featured ones.
Yeah.
If you want to feature them, there's a little thing at the top that says show and tell, get this featured. And once that happens, we'll just quickly check over, make sure.
Yeah, we're doing a
Log
soft
it.
launch for folks just to like see how this goes, and people are using it already, so
Yeah.
check it out.
And it's like cool because it's like it's live instantly. The what you write, it's basically like
Yeah.
other sites, but our promise is we will never put tons of banners and ads and interstitials and pop up. Like you're not going to get that whole
Yeah.
log in to read the rest of this guide.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
totally
and not
free.
not a ding on other sites because they have a different uh model than we do. We sell hardware, and we don't mine your data to put ads on it
No.
to run a business.
Whether you have an ad blocker or not, the site's going to
Yeah.
look exactly the same.
So we also don't like you have to sign up, then you get spammed. So we'll see. This is how we're running a business. So far, it's been working out. We think there's enough people out there that appreciate the style of like, well, I'll just buy hardware once in a while because I like electronics and open source and want to support it. And that's how we fund doing all this stuff. Okay, let's do. Speaking of, let's show you some factory footage. All right. That was a little glimpse into our pick and place who wanted to be the star this week. So we gave the pick and place a little bit more airtime, going through all the motions and more. 3D printing. Zip, 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 zip. Okay, so this week what we're going to do is we're going to show some 2023 Halloween projects to consider, to get inspired by, and then we're going to do
So Halloween roundup.
yeah, Halloween roundup, and then we're going to do a speed up. See you on the other side.
Spooky.
Here are top 5 3D printed projects you can make for Halloween 2023. With the return of the @SamD51, the Halloween M4 is the best dev board for your spooky themed projects. A desktop-sized tombstone makes a great home to display your admiration for animated eyes and diffuse NeoPixel LEDs. Keep yourself cool and light up your way while trick-or-treating with this portable LED flame. This medieval-themed torch houses a mini fan and NeoPixel jewel powered by a Gemma M0. Energize your cosplay with the power of NeoPixels with this 3D printed emerald. With the Circuit Playground Bluefruit, you can remotely change the color and brightness of this gem to fit just about any costume. Showcase iconic symbols of All Hallows Eve with these animated neon LED signs. Each sign features a specialized animation embodying the symbol it represents. Powered by a Cutie Pie RP2040, this small yet capable dev board is housed in a fashionable case in the shape of a coffin. Upgrade this small flying ghost prop with a remote-controlled candy dispenser. With a Circuit Playground Blue Fruit and a servo, you can deploy a bag of treats or tricks from your mobile device. We think it's great for those who want to keep a safe distance while still interacting with their unexpected guests. Whether you want a light-up prop or something more involved, the Adafruit Learn system has tons of projects to inspire.
All right, don't forget the code is VC and L. Let's do some INPI. INPI brought to you by DigiKey. Don't forget who it is. It's Brady. When performance matters most, Brady. That's this week's new product introduction. She liked your logo.
It's kind of a cool logo, right? Yeah.
What is this new interesting product this week?
Okay, so this week's IMPI is a labeler, and you're probably like, yeah, okay, so I can get a labeler at like my local stationery store. Why are you talking about a labeler? And at first, I was kind of like, I was like, oh, it's like yellow and rugged, so what? But the more I actually started, no, I mean, I want to be self-deprecating. It's actually a really cool product. I'll admit. So sometimes, I purchase one of the INPIs to review it, and I kind of tend to give them away to people. I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's like a toolbox bag. Maybe, or you like this tool or this screwdriver kit. This one I'm keeping. And this is a really nice product. And the price is, of course, really good as well. So there's two versions. There's the M210 and the M210 Lab. I'm going to be talking about the M210, but the Lab version is for people who are like working in a chemistry or biology lab, and it handles vials, printing a little bit better. I think there's a couple other changes with what symbols are available, whatever. But I'm going to talk about the M210, which is good for general purpose. So I have a labeler already that I have used for just like labeling boxes and, sometimes PCBs or samples, whatever. And it's, it's a crafting style, like home labeler. And so it has like cute icons and like it can do like a couple different fonts. This is a labeler specifically for engineers and makers and scientists and, chemists and electricians and people who are working with technology. And you'll see like there's a lot of specific things that it does that you will not get in other labelers, but you're basically paying for the same price. So first off, yes, it is ruggedized. It comes with, if you go back one, it comes with a really nice rubber grip outside. Everything is like nicely protected, like it's not going to crack in half and break if you drop it. Not that you should drop it. And okay, so I can go back one. It can take either DC power or batteries, or there's actually a rechargeable battery pack you can use. It's really fast to change out the cartridges. I'll do a demo. Languages, nice keypad that's really easy and nice to use. Everything's nicely labeled. Nice and hefty. But it's a lot of the other little details that like the QR codes and modes that make this so cool. So first up, maybe you can go to me like really fast. I'll just hold it. Really quickly. I'll just hold it up and show like here's how big it is. So it's a little bit big. And there's a little edit screen, and you type on the keypad. It does not connect to a computer. You have to use it like standalone. There's a version that's connected to a computer. Maybe I'll cover it in the future INPI. Okay, so go back to the edit screen. So you have an edit screen, and that you can have multiple lines, which is another thing. A lot of labelers don't let you have multiple lines. You can also do single line if you want, and just pick a font that's bigger, and it will stretch to be the full size. But you have multiple lines of text. You can select different sized fonts by pixels. You can do bold or not bold. There's a lot of like extra capabilities. There's lowercase, uppercase, battery life. So that's kind of like only the number of text lines is a little unusual. Just not supported. What is neat is it has languages. Like my hobby labeler doesn't have multiple languages or fonts. So this one, they're all, I will admit they're all like romantic fonts in that they use, like you're not going to get Farsi, you're not going to get Hebrew. There's a Russian version, you can get Cyrillic. But at least you can get like, Swedish and French and Spanish and German and Dutch and a lot of very popular European languages. So there are multiple language support. You can select that. And in addition, there's also Greek fonts. So even though they don't have like the interface in Greek, you can type in Greek, which is useful because you're going to want pi and mu and omega and sigma and theta and all these symbols and delta that when you're entering in mathematical or scientific symbols, you'll want to use the Greek symbol, especially electronics use mu and omega eta. Okay, and sigma sometimes. All right, next up, lots of fun symbols. So my thermal hobby labeler has like a cloud and like a happy face. This one has symbols of like how you're going to die. So electrocution, radiation, and ground faults, but also a lot of electrical symbols as well. So, grounds and batteries, antennas, speakers, diodes, etc. Home electrical, this is definitely, if you're an electrician or you do facilities maintenance type stuff or telecom maintenance, they have all the icons you'll need to quickly label stuff without having to type out washing machine. There's a symbol for washing machine. Or like cold water, this direction, they have the arrow ready for you. Another nice thing that you're going to get, and I just thought was super cool, is QR and data matrix support. I can show now, or maybe at the end we'll show the overhead. I printed out a couple QR codes, and yeah, they print out perfectly.
Sure,
Okay.
fast.
You just
Right.
yeah.
There you go. Right.
So
Print.
yeah, so this is like a QR code I printed. So I'll all you do is enter the QR code mode, and then you just type in what you want the QR code to be, and it prints it. And you can interleave this is like data matrix plus text plus symbols. And this is also just Adafruit, but this is a true QR code, and it's scanned on my phone, so I know it works. And here's some other symbols printed out. So like, yeah, exploding.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a very nice quality printer.
All right.
Okay. So, so there's codes. Data matrix, barcodes, code 39, code 128. It'll even print out the text underneath it. You can see how that there's an outline on the text. That's how you know what's going to go inside. You use the arrow keys to get inside that box, and you type in what you want to appear within the data matrix or QR code. Serialization. This is very neat. If you want to serialize, you want to start with the number 1000 and you end at 1000.
Oh, this is cool.
2000. It will automatically print out as you press print. Each one will increment, and you can change the increment value as well. And it does alphanumerics. Yeah. So it's like, I have been there where I was like, oh man, I have
This is good if you have a maker company and you even want to have like some type of number
serial numbers,
Yeah, you can do lots of
or like if you're labeling, like I was labeling, I did this Burning Man project and we had like, what was it, 250 different LED boards, and they had to be uniquely numbered. And it had to survive like wet, playa, mud, dirt, typhoon. And I would have absolutely used this to just like quickly label each one on the back. Instead, I had to like sit there with a Sharpie and like try to, I Sharpied and then I put tape over it to protect
Yeah.
it. I could have just used this labeler, which didn't exist at the time. Okay. Serialization, very cool. I've never seen this on a labeler before. Time stamping and date coding. So there is a built-in RTC. You can set the date and time, which I didn't show. There's a different screen where you set the current date and time. Once you've set it, you can then insert timestamps so that when you print out the label, it will print out with the exact time it was printed. So like,
That's cool.
at the time, and different formats, and they have like every ISO format for time and date. So really neat. And you can of course save, you can, like, there, I didn't show this, but there's a way to save the label. You can recall it later. So if you have to like timestamp multiple things. Somebody said, does it support ISO dates? It supports every date format, believe me. Interesting. Panel residential, if you do electrical work and you're constantly printing out labels for electrical panels, these are all built in and you can tell it. Like you can just check off which ones you want and it will pre.
It's like made by someone who did stuff.
This is absolutely made by someone who's like, I am never typing in bedroom 4 again.
Yeah.
And it can pre-print lengthwise. You don't have to print like length, it can print like widthwise. And so you see that label, it prints out each one in order with the correct spacing specifically for breaker panels. And there's a breaker panel mode. And it knows, it's like, oh, you tell me how wide each breaker is, and it'll just like do it all for you. So the thing I thought was so neat, like all that stuff was very cool, but the wire management is like amazing. So first off, it can do flags automatically, and it does the right, like you tell it the cable diameter and it will do the right distance between the text.
Yeah.
So you can flag the text. So this is a flag. That's what it looks like. But you're like, no, I don't want the flag because like, any whatever. It's like I don't want it to like flip around. They also have wraparound self-laminating style where you print it and then you wrap it around the cable to like secure it. There's also a version that can like rotate, but I didn't want to show that because I didn't find it interesting. The most interesting, you can print on heat shrink with this device. So if you go to the overhead, this hold on, I gotta eject this cartridge because I was actually using it. So this is heat shrink that comes on a reel, and then you can print out and like I just
the focus button.
oh yeah, you can I don't know, it's like of course it's gonna like not show. 1 second.
No, you could tell when you bent it that was heat shrink, but
yeah, it's I'm sorry, it's like I'm not able to show it very well because it's like
yeah,
but it's heat
yeah,
shrink.
it's heat shrink.
So when you shrink it onto the cable, you can have like these beautiful labels. It comes in a couple different thicknesses. This is just the one that
That's clever.
stopped. So, like permanent wire marking, that's very beautiful and easy to read each time. So I was like, okay, you have, your logic and logic. Like I'm absolutely doing this to my Sele because like I can't tell like which is pin 1. It's like you have to remember the number, the colors. It's like no, black is 0, 1. I'd rather just have it labeled this way. So this is just like their demo shot of it.
Okay.
So very cool.
And you can buy these. There's at least 50 in stock.
There's there's a bunch in stock. The price is really good. There's also a kit that comes with a lot more, like comes with the battery pack and the DC supply. This is just, it doesn't even come with batteries. You have to include the batteries. It does come with one thing of tape. I don't know how long it is. It's 3/4 inch thick, wide, and it's nylon cloth. And this is fine to get started with, but DigiKey stocks like 4,000 different tapes.
Yeah. So I was expecting it to be like $500. It's not. It's $129. Like this is a pretty good deal.
It's a very nice one.
So I'm gonna say like I didn't see this INPI before the show.
Yeah.
Because we were like racing to get the show.
Yeah.
This is really neat. This is like one of the best. So I've had so many crappy label printers. This is really cool.
No, I'm keeping it.
Like,
First I was like, I'll give it to Garrett, and I'm like,
you know what it is? I'll tell you, we make no money on if you buy this or not.
Yeah, we don't. There's no commission.
So the thing I like about this is like clearly someone had a terrible life and they were surrounded by by label printers, and they're like, I am going to fix this one problem, because there's like,
Yeah.
I've had label printers, I'm like, man, I wish it did incremental things, I wish it did this, I wish I could store these things, I wish I could do this, and now I'm like, there's QR codes that I want to do. Like, this is really good.
Yeah, I will say that.
Anyways,
Yeah, this is the one thing is that you do have to buy the consumables. You have to buy
I assume so, yeah.
the cartridges. Yeah, so you work that into your cost. I think for the labor it saves you, it's well worth it.
Yeah.
And again, it comes in
Yeah,
every
do your
color
math and
size.
everything,
Yeah.
but like, yeah. So, just from my point of view, especially since it has a full keyboard, the next time, instead of like reaching for, I have like, the Brother P Touch or whatever that breaks and you just get another one.
Yeah.
I think I'm
We even did a video about how broken.
I think I'm gonna switch to this,
Yeah.
and then we'll report back later. But this looks good. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, that's the NPI. So
That's
the
pretty cool.
Brady and
Okay, don't forget the code is VCNL. We're gonna roll right into products as well. Okay, coming soon's Pi stuff.
Yes, so the Raspberry Pi 5 was announced. It is not shipping yet. Some people have them because they are beta testers. However, we do not have any of these and stuff, but we did want to put stuff in the shop. You could sign up, and when we get some, promise we will have, one per
Yeah.
customer limit, and we will notify people as soon as we can. So the Raspberry Pi 5 computer available in 8 gig and 4 gig memory. There's a case that goes with it that has a small fan. There's a more intense cooling unit if you're using high computation, a real-time clock battery that you can use if you want to use the built-in RTC capability, a 5 amp 5 volt power supply. You don't need 5 volt 5 amp. You can get away with 3 amp to start, but if you're going to add like screens and cameras and hard drives and cellular modules, you'll get up to 5 amps. And so especially if you want to use a USB ports for a bunch of stuff.
So these are all coming soon, and we're gonna stick to, if you order it from Adafruit, that means we have it and we ship it. We're not doing back orders. They've been rebranded as pre-orders. That's a back order. My suggestion: read the Raspberry Pi blog post carefully. They say the best way to get it is to be a subscriber to Hackspace and Magpie. That's who will get them first. Let's get an email first, and then you buy them from Pi Hut first. Everybody else, you got to wait until Raspberry Pi ships to those resellers, including us. So we're going to do first come first serve once we have them in stock, of course, and you have to be two-factor authenticated, and we're not going to let people buy them and put them on eBay. But if you don't care about that, subscribe to Hackspace, get in line that way. That is definitely the first and best way, as per Raspberry Pi.
That's right.
Okay, next up.
Okay, we also have some more screens, and these screens are actually starting to come into stock. So this may or may not be in stock by the time, because we just got them in today. We have, this is a 3.4-inch diagonal capacitive touch 40 by 40 display and a bar display. This one is a slim, I think, 240 by 960 bar display. Very cool shape. Squares and bars. So you're going to see us kind of putting these in the shop just to get the photos taken, and then we'll probably do one big show where we kind of have every display.
We have the
and show the
cool
demos.
sushi conveyor thing. We got videos, Star Trek videos they were putting on these things. This is a whole new product line for us. It's under the Qualia umbrella.
Yeah.
So do check it out. And the star of the show, besides you, Ladyada, our community, our customers, our entire team, everything that makes Adafruit go is
the VCNL 4020. This is a next generation VCNL sensor. We've stocked the VCNL 4000 and the 4010, and I think the 4040. Well, the 4020 has a really wide lux range. I think it goes up to like 16,000 lux. It also does proximity up to 200 millimeters. So it's, a very inexpensive proximity and lux sensor. Easy to use. It's I2C. We have Arduino code. We'll have a CircuitPython library coming soon, but we wanted to get this into the shop. I just thought I'd show I have a quick demo. Hold on, I have to reset from my previous demo. Okay, so you've got this is just it over I2C, and this it can go much faster. It can go 250 frames, so 250 samples per second, but I slowed it down so that the display wasn't too nutty. And as it, it's measuring IR bounce, so as my finger gets closer, the number goes up. So it's good for like close measurements. It's not like the time of flight sensors that are, designed for 1 to 2 or 4 meter distances. This is for close distances. You You can even see the IR LED bounce there. And for lux, it's good for, like I said, up to 16,000 lux. But yeah, this is just a prototype. It's not gonna be green. I just happen to have a green one. But the black one is in stock right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's a nice little low level proximity and lux sensor, and it's a lot less expensive than time of flight for sure.
And that's our new products. Okay, and don't forget the code is VCNL. We're gonna answer some questions.
Yes.
On Discord. We're gonna get there in just a minute. We have a top secret we're gonna do though. Yeah.
Live in the vault.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, what's the top secret?
Okay, it's super top secret. You don't even know what this is. This is actually an old design that I again during the chip shortage I had to put away. This is a USB host shield. We have for the RP2040 a USB host feather that uses all the PIO to make USB host work, and it like kind of basically sort of works. But you have to use a lot of the capabilities of the RP2040, and also maybe you want ESP32 instead. So this is a Max. Oh my goodness, what's the number again? It's like the Max 3421E, which has been used in a lot of like USB host shield type things. We wanted to make a feather for it. It's got a nice USB host socket and a 5-volt boost converter. And it works great in Arduino. We're going to try to add support as well for CircuitPython so that pretty much any board can connect to keyboards and mice, disk drives, so your USB key, you can plug it in, and other accessories that come with USB without having to use an RP2040 or having to upgrade to like, a really beefy Cortex M7 processor with, dual USB support. So this will be really neat, I think, especially in Featherwing format.
Just top secret. Okay, let's get some questions out and then we will see everyone next week, but we got time for some questions. Okay, first one is the iPhone 15 introduced USB-C. Any plans to make a microcontroller with USB mail plug for easy connecting to smartphone, maybe for accessibility project? Okay, yeah.
So I've looked at it and I'll say there's the one thing is that when you have something that has a plug, like a USB-C particular plug, there's a lot of like if you bump it, that's a huge lever that you need a massive amount of strain relief to do. And a lot of maker projects don't have a ton of strain relief. And so even though it would be super cool to do that, instead, if you look in the shop, I have this little like USB, like it's the shortest cable in the world. It's like little like it just has 2 ports back to back. And I think people could use that instead if they really, really wanted to not use a cable. But honestly, for like your device's life safety, I would just use a cable.
Yeah. Duester got the Magpie code last week and went on order. So by the way,
Do it.
That's so ding 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 ding, you won. So again, if you look on the Raspberry Pi, so they're very smart about the way they're doing stuff. They've said, hey, you could pre-order from our resellers, because before, it turned into back orders. So saying pre-order it's true, it's a pre-order, but there's back orders for a while, so it's unknown how many are going to go out. So they do have immediate properties, which is Magpie and Hackspace, and those are from Raspberry Pi. So they want to have people subscribe to their magazine, so that makes a lot of sense. And then they have a partnership with Pi Hut. So if you're a subscriber to the magazine, even if you were to start right now, you'll get an email that gives you a code to place a pre-order, and those get allocated. Those are where the Pis are going to go first, the Pi 5s. So,
Cool.
so if you really need one, that's the way I would do it. And you're supporting a magazine for people like you who want to see magazines like that. I think it's hard to find magazines for makers. There's not tons out there, and that's one of them. So that is the way to do it. Smart, good job. We're just like, hey, we want to make sure that if you place an order on Adafruit, you're not waiting forever, because we don't know how many Raspberry Pis we'll ultimately get. There's lots of different distributors. If you place an order on our site for Raspberry Pi when we have them in stock,
It's because we have them.
it's because we physically have it.
I have it.
Yeah.
We could lick it.
Yeah.
Then we don't, but we could.
And I guess, there is the thing like, well, are you're leaving money on the table because you could take pre-orders. You could, but if there's something that we learned over the last few years is if once you take the money and charge someone's card, you should ship.
Within 30 days.
And it should ship, not months or longer. It should ship within hours. So that's what we're doing. Any update on the Native Factory moving? Yeah, the update is it's a very compelling time to find factory space in New York City. The retail real estate apocalypse happened. No one is taking on large amounts of space. So we're able to say what we want, and we're starting to talk different places, and they're coming back with fantastic offerings for us, which just means we might have bigger spaces, more overhead, we could pay our team more, we can add more benefits, all that good stuff. So yeah.
But we haven't signed anything, and we're still playing some parties against each other. So
Yeah.
we don't want to show our cards.
Yeah.
Because they all watch this show.
Well, yeah.
I would.
Yeah, and well, here's the other thing. And we've said this before. So when we have a different style negotiation, I guess. If we're negotiating with a party, we're honest, and we'll say, here's what the other party has offered us. If you can match this or beat it, we'll go with you if the offers are the same. We don't just lie and say, well, lowball you and like do stuff, because I feel like unless you're willing to walk away from a position or a deal, you're not really negotiating. You're just lying and trying to bluff. So, good example is when we had FedEx and UPS at the same time during the potential strike. We told UPS, like, we're going to stick with FedEx unless you can match or beat it. And they're like, no problem. But before that, they couldn't and they wouldn't. So that, they knew that just like that's a customer that is perfectly fine in FedEx right now.
And when we negotiate, if we say we're willing to walk, we really are. We don't bluff on it.
Yeah, we just won't. Yeah, there's no, because I feel like that's so silly. It's like, okay, here's is that your best offer? Well, and then they're like, no, and you're like, okay, fine. It's just like, it's not really negotiation. You just kind of got caught in the line. So, anyways, that's kind of
negotiation is a win-win. I think it's like when we negotiate, we're not trying to like screw over the other party. We're like, hey, here's what we think is fair. Here's what like what the market is.
Yeah, we're always.
What can you do to make it work out?
And we don't go to the lowest cost things often. We want to go for the best value because you do get what you pay for with this stuff.
It's true.
So, anyways, that's the update, and we'll have more as soon as we can share more. We just have to make sure it's okay for us to start talking about it more. But yeah, absolutely, this is a really good time to find large amounts of space if you're a manufacturing company in New York, because those spaces are empty and they need to fill them, and we want to. So, okay, good questions. All right. That's our show, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
This has been Adafruit Production. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see everybody next week. Here is your moment of Zener.